I would like to thank you all for joining today's webinar. And my name is Manqi Cai. I'm currently a fourth-year PhD student in biostatistics from University of Pittsburgh. And I will be the moderator for today. And we are honored to have 7 speakers from 6 industries to share information about the internship opportunities. So each panelist will give around 10 minutes talk, and then we'll have the Q&A session in the end. And it's my pleasure to introduce them, and due to time limits, the details of their bios are available at the website. So let's first welcome Rob Baker and Xin from Procter & Gamble P&G, and they will give a joint presentation about 20 minutes. And Rob is the Director of Data Science and Artificial Intelligence at P&G. And through his 13 plus years with P&G, Rob has led groups in a wide range of areas, including clinical trials, consumer research, and quality control. And his current group has responsibility for cooperative functions, research, and development, supporting all for P&G's business. And Rob holds a master's degree in statistics from Purdue and a bachelor's in mathematics from Rochester Institute of Technology. And G is a statistician in the Advanced Consumer Modeling and Statistics at P&G. He joined P&G in 2020 after finishing his PhD in statistics at University of Maryland. And G supports consumer research and product development with R&D at P&G. And he also holds master's and bachelor's degrees from Miami University. And let's welcome Rob and G for their presentation. Yeah.
Thank you, Menchie. G and I are excited to present a little bit about our statistics and data science work that we do at P&G, mostly based here in Cincinnati. So thank you for the invitation. Next slide. So P&G was founded almost 200 years ago as a soap and candle company in Cincinnati, Ohio. And boy, have we grown since that time. So next slide, maybe, because it's not advancing for some reason. So now we have 65 brands that lead their categories. We have approximately $65 billion in annual sales. We serve 5 billion consumers globally, many of which use our products daily. Our brands are sold in 180 countries. Our workforce consists of 145 plus nationalities, and we employ 40,000 plus women. And we've really grown substantially. Next slide, please. From the soap and candles, you can see now we're in this many different categories. So you see baby care, feminine care, family, fabric, home, all the way on through to healthcare. And hopefully you use a number of these different products, or you will, depending on your life stage at different times. One thing you see at the bottom is corporate functions. Both G and I are in corporate functions. And the reason that spans the width of this slide is that we support all of these products globally. So we're not actually in a particular business. We support all of them. There we go. It's working good. Nice. So I mentioned that we've expanded, tremendously. One thing you can see is we market a number of smart products. So most people don't understand that about P&G, don't know that. So for example, the last 4 years, we've had a very large presence at the Consumer Electronics Show, winning a number of awards. And this is just one of the products that has done pretty well for us. It's our Oral-B IO, our Genius brush. And what it does is we use machine learning and statistics throughout to give you real-time feedback. So for example, if you are right-handed, you almost certainly spend more time and do a better job cleaning the left side of your mouth, almost certainly. This will tell you, it tracks where in your mouth you are brushing and actually gives you feedback of you need to spend more time in this area. And it also, if you're applying too much pressure, that could hurt your soft or hard tissue. It'll give you feedback like that as well. And you can see this is like a platform for delivering a number of end consumer benefits. So we have a number of smart products like this, but this is one of the ones that probably has received a little bit more press. G and I are both in the R&D side. However, there's a even larger data science group in the IT side, and they work more on like marketing spend, retail execution, supply chain optimization, which is a fair amount different. But again, their group is, they're based in Cincinnati, Geneva, Guangzhou, Singapore, Beijing, Germany, London. They're actually larger than we are. And these are just some of the different tools that they use. A lot of times they are dealing with big data kinds of problems that we may not be. R&D, we tend to have some big data, but most of it is not. So I mentioned a little bit about G&I being in R&D. We have more than 50 statisticians and more than 50 data scientists in our R&D organization globally. Most are masters or PhDs. We do have some bachelor's degree folks as well. And we are located, our largest group is where we were founded in Cincinnati, Ohio. In the US, we also have a location in Boston, which is primarily Gillette, so our shaving business. We also have a site just outside of London. We have 2 sites in Germany, 1 in Belgium. We also have a technical center in Beijing and Singapore. So we're pretty well spread out across the globe as well. And our different organizations collaborate pretty well, I'd say, the IT, data science, as well as R&D. So if you think of some of the different application areas, consumer research, a lot of people think of P&G as the company that founded the idea of the brand kind of way back. So we do tons of consumer research. Statisticians and data scientists are involved in all of that. We do a fair amount of product, package, and process development, and you'll hear a little bit about that, I think, from G. We do a lot of clinical research, in particular in healthcare, oral care, beauty care, a fair amount in baby care. And so not absolutely all of our businesses, but we're very heavy into clinical research. Again, stats as well as data science. Continuing a little bit with applications. So we do a lot with claims. So anything that we claim about our products, it's thoroughly investigated, statistically tested, and well understood before we would make any claim on any of our products. And so we play a key role in that area, including litigation. Both, it doesn't come up that often, but it does sometimes, and we're heavily involved in that. And we feel solid that our science, our statistics, our designed experiments are of high quality, that they will withstand that scrutiny. We have a large biotech organization, many here in Cincinnati, some in Singapore as well, where we have statisticians and data scientists heavily influencing areas. And of course, product safety is most important to us, right? So we are involved in many different aspects that are behind the scenes that most consumers really would not know about our products, but that's very serious science going on there, and we're heavily involved in that. So as the data science director, some of the tools and techniques we use, obviously natural language processing. I've shown some simple word clouds, but we really, honestly, our group doesn't spend much time with word clouds. We use, state-of-the-art algorithms. We hire, folks. We've done a lot of hiring in the last few years from, strong universities and folks that are doing leading edge work. And so we use, latest techniques. We get involved in natural language generation as well to kind of feed some of our models. Excuse me, and we're doing a little bit more with chatbots more recently as well. The last thing that I'll kind of touch on is Olay Skin Advisor. So Olay is one of our beauty care products. And probably about 4 or 5 years ago, we launched this, and you can feel free to go to skinadvisor.olay.com. If you upload a selfie of your face, it gives you your perceived skin age. So the age at which people would believe that you are. And it's then takes it one step further. It highlights those features of the image that most negatively impact that assessment. So for me, for example, I've got a big wrinkle right here. So it highlights that, and then it can, if you're interested, recommend a product to help, to go after that feature. So this is something that we had done and shared pretty broadly. And it's the initial model had tens of thousands of images that we used behind it. Now I'm sure it's well over 100,000 images with actual data in terms of the actual age. So if you have a chance, you're interested, go check it out, and might be kind of interesting for you. So now I think I'll hand it over to G.
Okay, so let me take over from here. So some of the work that Rob has mentioned is heavily focused on the data scientist side. That's while Rob is leading our data scientist group. So for me, from the stats side, here is more traditional stats work. So I'm typically design analysis of experiment that aids our product and package and process development. Yeah, it's heavily focused in all those areas. We thoroughly study them before we're able to either make advances in formulation or new packages, or just improve our production line. And another area of this is obvious for claims. Everything we put, all the numbers or so statement we put on our package are thoroughly studied and are tested in lab, and there's a body of evidence to prove stuff like that, which would require the design analysis of the experiments. And then on the consumer side, to understand our consumer, this is a very tough job because people are complicated and we like different things. And for so many attributes in one product, what's the priority we should focus on, right? And there's two main tools we're using for that. The conjoint analysis. It's a type of a survey question where we give alternatives, and panelists would pick which one would they prefer or not. This is one simple example, sort of, I mean, obviously very naive, simple example, but you get the idea. We condense the product into different attributes. In this case, 3 attributes: brand, price, and benefit. And we give different combinations, and we'll ask panelists to make their choices. Another type of tool we use is Bayesian belief network. We utilize it because it has this advantage of dealing with highly correlated data that wouldn't fit a traditional regression type of model. Then we use Bayesian belief network because it's a graphical model and it handles highly correlated data. Yes, and computer simulations. In this case, it's a Bayesian problem. We're trying to figure out a best way to design a bottle. Yeah. So some technical skills that we use on a daily basis. So design analysis of experiments it's a big one, and all sorts of modeling work, from just basic linear regression model to more advanced, like such as partial, which is partially squares. We use all of them with different sort of frequency, of course. And then some special special type of models like like Bayesian methods, multivariate methods. Some of the deep learning stuff that we also use. Programming language, SAS, R, Python, and Jump is pretty much what we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. For statisticians, it's always SAS and R. For data scientists, it's Python, of course, and we use Jump to do more minor tasks of handling a typical sort of standardized data sets. Oh, next slide. So thoughts on internship. So after all, this is a seminar on internship, right? So it's definitely a critical part of building your future, no doubt about it. And that gives you some flavor of a different type of a career paths in different companies and institutes. Build professional network and mentors. That's something you should focus on whenever you're joining the PNG or some other company. The work is so only just part of it. It's more about knowing, get to know people and build relationships that should last well beyond just one internship. Me and Rob actually met. Well, I was hired by Rob as an intern like more than 10 years ago now. It's a long time ago. And then later on, I joined the company. I think it really started because I had a very good experience there under Rob's in Rob's team. At PNG, we select problem to match business needs with skills. So you are here to learn, of course, but also you are here to contribute as well to actual business problems. And lastly, successful internships often lead to full-time offers. That's the case exactly for me. And seeking internships, this is just some of my personal advice. Are you good at programming stuff? That's number one thing. Either you're a data scientist or a statistician, you are not getting around with that. I know you all know some programming, but you need to be good at it. And that saves your time and saves companies time and effort. Good to know, good at real world projects. If you have advanced degrees, you no doubt you're good at research. But dealing with real world projects is different because you're dealing with not just the problem itself, but also different team members that from different disciplines. And effective communication is the key, and often it's more important than your skill of dealing with data itself. Yes, that's exactly the next part, where how do you showcase your strengths through communication, of course. Remember the STAR method: situation, task, action, and result. Tell the story in that sort of formula will make your strengths shine. Yes, and lastly, showcase your own research. It's the ability to learn and develop tell people what you are doing. It's key. The audience often are not in your field of study, probably likely far away from your field of study. And how did you learn and develop in as you're doing your own research is very important, that really showcase your strengths as a researcher. We have internship opening up for next summer. We definitely have full-time positions as well. You can find all that on our PNG career site. This is a clickable link. I believe the slides are shared with you. If not now, eventually. And go in there, and there's plenty of things to you may find interesting. So feel free to apply. Lastly, we inserted like a video link here just to show you what's like to work as a data scientist at PNG here. Anything to add, Rob?
No, that covers it well.
Yeah. I hope we didn't go over the time, but some parts are slightly are slightly rushed. But I welcome all the questions you might have. So
thank you, Rob and G. Yeah, I think you are in a good time. And thank you for the great introduction of PNG. And as mentioned by G, the slides will be shared after the webinar and this website. So please keep on to about that. And next we'll have Grayson do. So Grayson Deal leads Advanced Analytics Bank of America's consumer and small business anti-money laundering business controls organization. His team develops measurement techniques and automated strategies designed to improve compliance with the bank's Secrecy Act. His team also supports the consumer and small business at risk personal program, as well as the consumer and small business sales practice program. And Grayson obtained a master's in applied economics from Johns Hopkins University and undergraduate degrees in history from UNC Chapel Hill, and in political science, mathematics, and economics from UNC Charlotte. And let's welcome Grayson.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. I actually gave a very similar talk for early career entrance with the ASA last year. So I'm very happy to be back. I'm very happy to have this kind of audience. I hope you'll see from my talk that in my position at Bank of America, I actually do a fair amount of work with early career associates. So always happy to have this sort of audience. I also have, I extended the invitation to my team. So in addition to early career entrants in the audience, there are also some of my teammates on the phone who have been strictly forbidden from stumping me during Q&A. I don't have slides to share. Unfortunately, that would require me vetting slides with our corporate communications folks inside the company to make sure I'm not giving away state secrets, which we didn't have time for. So hopefully you'll find that I'm a pretty good storyteller. And I'd be happy to answer follow-up questions that you may have after the talk. I'm going to talk about four things today. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself because I think my background, hopefully there could be some nuggets of interest for folks in the audience who are thinking about how to start their career. I'm going to talk a little bit about the nature of work that my team tackles. And use that description of the type of work we do to kind of motivate a broader discussion of the skills of the folks on my team and the skills that we might be looking for with interns or early career applicants. And then I'll wrap with my fourth topic, which is I'll talk about some of our early career opportunities at the bank. Some of those are very general that are bank opportunities. And then I'll talk about one that's kind of unique for my team. Okay, so without further ado, first of four topics. So just a little bit about myself. I won't repeat the bio that you can read on the site, but I've been with Bank of America for 6 years, and I've been doing the same type of work at Bank of America that entire time, which is very broadly speaking, it's basically taking analytics or data science and bringing it to the business problem of financial crime. All federally chartered financial institutions in the United States have to, under federal requirement, under law, have to be concerned with federal crime and whether or not the bank is knowingly or unknowingly facilitating criminal transactions. And so banks have to be on the lookout for potentially unusual transactions. Where they see those unusual transactions, they need to, in cases, create specialized reporting that may go to law enforcement or to the federal government. In other cases, if they think it's a fraudulent transaction, perhaps the bank needs to block that transaction in order to prevent operational loss or in order to prevent client harm. And if you think about that business problem, it's almost seemingly intractable, right? If you think about the number of clients and the number of accounts that they have and the number of transactions happening in those accounts, that's a lot of information. And if you threw human bodies at that problem to physically comb through transaction after transaction to ask the question, is this unusual? Is this potentially criminal? The bank or the company would go out of business because that would be a lot of human beings to have to go through that problem. And so that's where teams like mine come in. Teams like mine can develop automated solutions, computer programs that basically stand in place of those millions of human beings that would be trying to solve that problem. So I've been doing that at Bank of America now for 6 years. At Bank of America, I work inside of one of our lines of business, the consumer and small business line of business. Bank of America, like many large banks, is comprised of individual lines of business that taken together make Bank of America. Consumer and small business is the largest of Bank of America's lines of business. We have over 60 million clients. Our other lines of business that you may have heard of, Merrill Lynch. Merrill Lynch is our investment and retirement brokerage business. We also have the Bank of America Private Bank, which is our affluent segment line of business, so on and so forth. Consumer and small business, again, the largest, and that's who I do my financial crime analytics work for. Before Bank of America, I spent a couple years with a regional bank, one of the larger regional banks based out of Minneapolis, U.S. Bank. And before that, Baby Grayson started his career with Wachovia. Some of you may remember Wachovia. Wachovia did not survive the last financial crisis originating out of the subprime mortgage crisis, or originating out of the subprime mortgage market. It was acquired by Wells Fargo. So I started my career with Wachovia and continued in as a Wells Fargo employee before I went to U.S. Bank. At all three banks, I worked on the same type of business problem. All three banks, because they're all nationally chartered, have to worry about financial crime. And at all three places, I was kind of taking this idea of analytics and data science and using it to make this otherwise very intractable business problem tractable for the company. So let me talk a little bit about my background, my educational background. Hopefully you'll find it an illuminating talk. I did not start as a quant. My first degree from Chapel Hill was in history, and I actually went and worked in the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. for a little while, and I lived overseas for a little while. And with that experience of living in D.C. and living overseas, I got very interested in international trade and international development, and that's what took me to second undergraduate degrees in political science and economics. And it was really through economics that I discovered mathematics. If any of you have ever studied economics, you know that you kind of almost robotically derive these revenue and cost functions and use them to develop profit functions, and then you set the derivative of this profit function equal to 0, and you may not wonder why. And so I was doing that as an undergraduate economics student, and I got very curious about all this calculus, and so I ended up studying math while I was at it. And then I went on to graduate school where I studied economics. And what's interesting about that, and what I hope maybe I can share as a little nugget is, I came to quantitative study a little bit later as a student, and I almost believe that I was a better student of quantitative disciplines, having had the benefit of study in the social sciences and in the humanities. One of the major lessons that I took from my time at Chapel Hill as a history student was learning how to read and write, and do so critically. And when you wed that with the quantitative skills, it's a very powerful combination of things. And so I would encourage you to think about that for those of you who may have courses left to take and you're thinking about what courses to take. It's a very powerful combination of skills and will serve you well in business. Quickly, a little bit about the work that we do. I've kind of buried the lead. Of course, we work on financial crime. We work on preventing financial crime and preventing the company from incurring losses due to financial crime. I mentioned that it's a regulatory requirement. So banks do this because the federal law requires that they do so. What's interesting about complying with federal law is that the government says that you have to do it, but the government doesn't tell you how to do it. It doesn't give you a recipe. And so banks have a fair amount of discretion in how they comply with regulation. And I suppose a not very creative financial institution could throw a lot of human bodies, like we talked about earlier, could throw a lot of human bodies at the problem of financial crime to physically comb through transaction records and ask the question, is this suspicious? Yes, no, move on to the next one. But we can agree that that would be a tremendous overhead expense that would be passed on to our clients. And that means we would probably not be offering goods and services to our clients at a reasonable cost. We would also probably not be able to provide good shareholder value to our shareholders if we were incurring that kind of overhead expense. So where a team like mine comes in is we offer a set of skills. We bring a set of techniques to this compliance problem that allows us to meet the regulatory requirement, but to do so at as minimal expense as possible. Because instead of hiring thousands or millions of human beings to physically comb through transactions and ask the question, suspicious, yes, no, instead we give computers instructions to do that. And instead of having millions of human beings, my team is a team of 11. That's better. So we're, I think, part of this really interesting equation that allows the bank to, number one, satisfy our regulators and protect our clients from financial crime, but also enable the bank, because at the end of the day, we're all bankers. We may be data scientists too, but first and foremost, we're bankers. It allows us to offer goods and services at a reasonable cost, to continue offering services at a reasonable cost, and to continue delivering shareholder value. In terms of the team, as I mentioned, it's a team of 11. Most of us are based in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is the corporate headquarters for Bank of America. But we are generally somewhat dispersed. I have 3 folks in Boston, and then the rest of my folks are pretty dispersed from there. I have folks in Dallas, Fort Worth. I have a couple of folks in Tennessee, but we do have a concentration of folks in Charlotte. In terms of skill set, most of the team, I think, would consider themselves data scientists. I think most of them are fairly expert in being able to consult with business partners to understand the nature of a business problem. Not only do they consult with business partners to understand the nature of the business problem, but they may work with business partners to kind of craft ideas about how we might bring measurement or automation to the table as a solution. So there's a consultative component to being on the team. Our folks are all expert at navigating ginormous relational database environments. So consumer and small business, again, 60 million clients. And if you think about those 60 million clients, each of those clients may have, let's say, to make the math simple, 2 or 3 accounts with Bank of America. So we're talking 120, 180 million accounts. And then, of course, the transactions are happening inside those 120 or 180 million accounts. So we're talking about ginormous scale of data. So all of the folks on the team are expert at navigating very large relational databases to engineer the analytical data sets that they then need to be able to conduct measurement on or be able to model with. They're then expert at figuring out what is the right solution, the right quantitative solution to bring the solution to the business partner. In some cases, it's as simple as exploratory data analysis. Sometimes we don't need models. Sometimes we just need to explain something or describe something.
Sorry, Grayson. Could you wrap it up in 30 seconds? Yeah.
Of course. So our folks are expert at bringing the right quantitative solution to the problem. And then finally, our folks are very good at communicating results to our business partners in a way that's appropriate for the partner. In terms of early career opportunities, I would encourage you to check out the career site at Bank of America. We have internships. We also have 2-year rotational programs where folks are employees of the bank and rotate through different departments. And then the third thing that's unique to my team is that we sponsor graduate research at a couple of different universities, most commonly North Carolina State University and their Institute for Advanced Analytics. and I'll turn it back.
Yeah, thank you so much, Grayson, for the great talk for Bank of Americas. And you are definitely a great storyteller. And next, we have the Peter Hanstock. And Peter is the machine learning and AI lead at Pfizer and based in Greater Boston. And his work has focused at the intersection of AI, visualization, statistics, and software engineering applied mostly to drug discovery, but more recently to clinical trials. And Peter holds a PhD in artificial intelligence from Purdue University, along with 6 master's degrees. And he was recognized as being among the top 12 leaders in AI and pharma globally by the Deep Knowledge Analytics Group. He also currently teaches graduates AI and software engineering courses at Harvard. And let's welcome Peter to give his talk about Pfizer.
Hello, thank you for having me. So I'm going to be talking about statistics and AI internships at Pfizer, but I think many of you are already statisticians, and so you're probably familiar with the overall statistical kinds of work that's being done in pharmaceuticals these days. You've probably heard of Pfizer as well. But think about the role that statisticians have. All the experiments that are done in the discovery of a drug from the early stages all the way to the late stages are accompanied by statisticians. And so it's a key role within the organization. In fact, it was the statistician who delivered the final message to our CEO as to whether or not the COVID trial worked just last year. And so it's a critical role within the overall pharma space. I'm really impressed by our statisticians. I'm in that group, but I consider myself more of an AI person. But I'm extremely impressed by the quality and the caliber of the research that's going on in the overall statistics space. I'm going to tell you about some of the work in AI that you're probably less familiar with in terms of a pharma space today. And so I find myself and my team really working on 2 different kinds of things in my role of AI and machine learning. Half the time I'm doing statistical kinds of things, looking at statistics, sometimes visualization, AI, applying to large-scale data, such as biomarker data, which has expression data for thousands of columns, and lots of patients. We're also starting to look at wearable sensor data, which has tons of data. There's speech signals, there's all sorts of other types of data, but quite often it's something a statistician's already looked at. And we're saying, well, can AI and machine learning bring some other kind of value and insight to that kind of data? Because there's different assumptions, different methods, different techniques, and ideas that go into it. We find in many cases we're able to uncover some previously unknown factor insight about the data. The other half of what we do is really develop solutions, lots of natural language processing, image processing, and other techniques where we partner with different groups to solve a problem. And then unlike the statistical analysis kinds of the things, we also deploy the solutions so that they can be used over and over again by different groups. I'd like to give you some examples of some projects that we've been involved in with different students groups. For instance, one of them is mining PubMed. This is a 33 million abstracts from biomedical literature. It's growing so fast we can't read it. And so we're relying for insights on AI and machine learning techniques. And so we've had different uses for it. One project we had was called Winnow. It was, could we search for a given gene and figure out what diseases are associated with that gene? Or do the opposite, search for a disease and figure out what are the associated genes with it? It's a fairly simple statistical test. It's a chi-square test at the end of the day, but how do you figure out all the genes and the diseases from the literature, and how do you extract it and then make it available on demand? So that was one of the major challenges that we accompanied, as well as figuring out the right kinds of tests to do it. And so for any gene, we can figure out what diseases in these interrelationships, which are very interesting with statistical credibility. But we wanted to do more than that. And so we started a new project of trying to figure out, can we understand the trends over time of the articles and things that we're reading online? And so this is just looking at different industries and how often they cite or talk about AI in the news stories. We find that technology, about 4% of the articles are about AI, and it's been increasing. Healthcare, kind of the middle of the pack, about 1%, 2% of the articles are going in there. Everyone else is a little bit different than the technology groups. But if we look at these trends, can we actually leverage them for something interesting? And so we challenged some students to, in this project called Genie, could we figure out which diseases and genes would be able to make it into a phase 2 trial 5 years in the future. This is a real problem. Can we figure out which ones are candidates based on just the literature? And so we used PubMed, that 30 million abstracts, and we used another data set that's public called clinicaltrials.gov, put all this information together and made predictions on which would be able to make it to a phase 2 trial. And so the students put together a very nice presentation. They looked at trends over across, this is for the P53 gene as a function of time. They found for breast neoplasms as a disease, that trends. But together, these two trend together, and you can actually look at the individual articles in the top left corner as to what exactly the diseases and genes are that they're citing, what papers, and so on. So this is a very nice interface, lots of computer science work, and beautiful interface actually, but it doesn't answer the question of, well, can we predict which ones are going to make it to a phase 2 trial? And to do that, they made some prediction models. They tried lots of different AI techniques, random forest, gradient boost, XGBoost, neural networks, and deep learning approaches. And in this one, it was gradient boosting. Actually, it gave the best results, and it gave about an AUC of a 71%, which is pretty respectable for no scientific knowledge, just literature mining. They could make some decent predictions as to which genes and diseases would come up. So it was quite remarkable in a retrospective analysis. They also uncovered which features are important in that. And so we learned that it was the cumulative citations from an article that suggested its importance. It's also which journal it was published in. The ranking of that particular journal was really important, and authors and other things were also relevant. And so an interesting project that leveraged a lot of AI and machine learning and computer science to put a lot of things together to make these kinds of predictions. Another project we had recently was looking at protein crystal structure. Protein structure allows us to figure out the shape of the proteins, and so we can figure out where a good drug might bind. Maybe it's a binding pocket in here or perhaps over here. And so can we figure that out from the protein crystals is not the problem we were looking at. It was actually how you can make the protein crystals and which ones would actually give it the result. And so people try all different assay conditions in many different temperatures, different concentrations, and different ways of producing the crystals. The bottleneck is actually figuring out which ones succeeded in making a crystal, which ones gave just nothing. Some gave some kind of precipitate, and others had all sorts of weird things and noise and hairs and contamination. But the bottleneck of this whole process is looking at the images. And so could deep learning solve this problem? We found out, yes, we could get very high accuracy, 85% to 90% or so, using a deep learning approach for this problem. We've recently been expanding that and improving the results by doing some refinement to the images. So just a deep learning image-based project. We're seeing a lot more things in the wearable sensors and devices, IoT as it's called. And we had a past project in Parkinson's disease that looked at these kinds of things. And so using sensors, they collect data, both translation and also angular data with the accelerometers and gyroscopes, different angles and rotations. And if we put those on patients in different places, we can track information. And so we can compare how Parkinson's patients compare to healthy patients using any particular sensor. Whether they're holding something, standing, walking, or sitting, we could use the data to figure out which of the activities they're doing and figure out the differences and quantify the distances to understand the disease. So this is a huge area that's exploding right now. There's a lot of money going into the wearable sensor devices for various purposes, and it's quite exciting for digital health. And so we looked at these kinds of projects and said, well, could we figure out first when they're sitting, walking, or standing, or asleep? Quite difficult to figure out if the person's asleep or whether or not if they're not wearing their device, based on the vibrations of the house or residence and so on. So once we figured out these different patterns, we took different patterns where they were walking and said, well, can we identify features and extract the time series and characterize those regions to figure out when a person's on their medicine or off their medicine? We found with about 1 second of walking data, we could determine how well the medicine was working for a given patient, which is amazing. And so it's going to change the nature of clinical trials with this kind of machine learning analysis that goes on. Another project we had was called PharmaDB. It's understanding text mining between drug labels and patents. And so the challenge of this one was to figure out, given a sequence of patents that are associated with one drug, and given a series of drug labels that are a legal document also that's required by the FDA and different governments, can we figure out how these are related to each other? And so if we could do that, then we could figure out which patents are important for the science of the labels. So to do that, we took this orange book that lists all the patents and all the drugs that are currently patented, took the drug names, looked them up in the FDA sites, and extracted all the changes of the drug labels. They also extracted the patents and put those and extracted the claims. They were looking at, are the changes of the drug labels over time related to the different claims that are in the patents? This is a really difficult problem. What it looks like is this. Here's a change of a drug label, and it has a bunch of stuff about doses and morphine and different chemical structure. And here is part of a claim from a particular patent. Are these related to each other or not? So this is a challenging problem because these are two very different types of text. As you can see, one's all legal, one's all biology. We don't have ground truth. So
Sorry, Peter, could you wrap it up in 1 minute?
yes, I can. So how do we do this? Well, we used different models. We did encoding in different vectors, and we figured out how to compare the documents and looking at dissimilar documents versus similar documents. So a lot of interesting work went on that. We're also looking at knowledge graphs as ways of structuring knowledge. So credits to the people who did a lot of the work. Let's talk about the internship program. We have to compete at Pfizer to get an intern. We have hundreds of people working in statistics and AI, and only a small fraction get to have a project with a summer intern. We do a lot of work in clinical trial research and statistics analysis, also preclinical. We have a lot of AI opportunities for statisticians as well as data scientists doing different work and even visualization with Shiny apps. We have multiple sites for our internships, and we have a formal program for our interns that get to work with different research teams, get to learn about different aspects of the internships within the pharma overall. And there's lastly a summer showcase that allows you to demonstrate what you've learned and the actual project and your contributions before teams of statisticians or other scientists. The site will open up in December at Pfizer Careers, and then we'll have different internship opportunities. You want to do that soon in December or January and apply. We also have some opportunities through Handshake that are listed, but it's a really great program. I've been really impressed with it, and the caliber of students, mostly graduate statistics students, but also a range of others in data science. A really terrific program. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Peter, for the kind introduction of the ML and AI application at Pfizer. And next, we'll have Nathan. Nathan Nelly is an AVP of Data Science at HSB, Munich Re Group, where he leads a team of data scientists on projects focused on insurance analytics, as well as projects supporting the company's engineering and technology divisions. And Nathan, we previously worked in data science and statistics roles at HSB, Pratt and Whitley, and the Hartford Insurance Group. He holds undergraduate degrees in political science and mathematics, as well as an MS in mathematics. And let's welcome Nathan.
Hey, everyone. All right. Okay. Thanks for having me. Yeah, great to be here. All right. So I'm going to talk to you guys today about, well, a little bit about myself, about my company, and then most importantly, about opportunities for internships and employment at HSB and Munich Re for graduate students. All right, first a little bit about myself. I have an undergraduate in political science. I noticed there's some other political science folks here in the virtual room. So I don't know why it is that some of us choose to study liberal arts and then go into mathematics, but it just seems to happen. I also have a BA in mathematics with a subconcentration in statistics, and then an MS in mathematics. And I also, while I was doing my MS, took a bunch of stats courses for electives because I actually prefer statistics over mathematics, at least pure mathematics. And then what have I done throughout my career? I actually started off working for General Dynamics, which is a big defense contractor. From there, I went to the Hartford, where I was working as a data scientist. When I worked at General Dynamics, I was not a data scientist. I was working in a business sort of process improvement department. Then from there, I worked at Pratt & Whitney, which is a jet engine manufacturer, which used to be owned by United Technologies when I was there, but now is owned by Raytheon. I was a statistician there working on mostly systems reliability calculations and anything else having to do with stats or probabilistic analysis. And then finally, I left Pratt & Whitney to go to HSB, which stands for Hartford Steam Boiler, which is part of Munich Re Group. I was a senior data scientist, and now I'm a manager of a data science organization. And then in my spare time, when I'm not working, I volunteer for the New England Statistical Society, where I am currently wrapping up my term as the VP for Education. So if anyone has any questions about joining NESS, ask me about that as well as HSB and Munich Re. All right, so let's talk about HSB and Munich Re very briefly. So I work for HSB, which again is a company within the much larger Munich Re Group. HSB was actually founded in 1866, so we're quite an old company. And we're one of the first companies that has been dedicated to industrial safety. And so what does that mean? Well, Hartford Steam Boiler, we realized that steam boilers used to be quite dangerous things. If they weren't manufactured and maintained correctly, they would explode and kill people and cause chaos. So HSB actually started as a firm providing inspection services for steam boilers, working with government and other agencies to make sure that these things were safe and to reduce industrial accidents. From there, it was kind of natural to start offering insurance on steam boilers and other pressure vessels. And so as our business grew, we got into many other insurance lines. Our bread and butter is commercial equipment breakdown insurance still, of which much of the equipment is actually steam boilers still. But we also have cyber products, looking at data breach and identity recovery, EPL, employment practices liability, and a whole ton of other insurance products that we work with, both reinsurance and direct insurance. Reinsurance, for those who don't know, is providing insurance for other insurance companies. Finally, in addition to our insurance business and the engineering business, we still offer inspection services as well. HSB has a new division, which is called Applied Technology Solutions, where mainly we're looking at how to leverage IoT, so Internet of Things, to deliver unique risk management solutions. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So that's HSB. You can see this wonderful picture we have here in Hartford, Connecticut on the river, our beautiful skyline. And that building, the tallest sort of red, purplish looking building there is HSB's building that we own. It's number 1 State Street. But Munich Re actually has a lot of really cool buildings in Munich, including this castle there that we own, which is actually a park open to the public as well. But what is Munich Re? Well, Munich Re is the world's largest reinsurance firm, and we're going back and forth with Swiss Re, but right now I think we're the largest, and we operate globally. Just showing really quickly the Munich Re companies. So you can see Munich Re sort of breaks down into 3 major divisions or groups. One is reinsurance, of which I am part of, being part of HSB. We have a primary insurance division and an asset management division. The reinsurance division actually includes companies that are exclusively primary or direct insurance businesses like American Modern. It's kind of historical and strange reasons why they're lumped into reinsurance, but no one will ever really solve that mystery. But there we are. Ergo is a very big primary insurance company in Europe. That's the main primary insurance company. All right. And so, like I said, Munich Re is a very large company. they've been around for 140 years, so they're old, as not quite as old as HSB, but nearly. Like I said, they work in reinsurance, primary insurance, insurance-related services, so like HSB's inspection services, and capital market solutions. We have more than 47,000 employees in 50 different countries. That's, to me, actually one of the really cool parts about working at Munich Re. We really have a global presence, and it's very important for us that all of our employees get as much global exposure as they can. So we encourage travel and international rotation to develop careers. So actually, I was just in Munich last week, so it's a really nice part of working for this company. We play a key role in addressing and ensuring climate risks. So this is a big part of our portfolios, is providing reinsurance for those sorts of companies that have a lot of climate catastrophe exposure. So we do a lot of climate modeling and risk modeling there. And we also write kind of things that might be considered a little bit more exotic that, you know, other companies that are not as well capitalized as ours might not be able to cover. Like you see rocket launches and other things. We actually we wrote pandemic insurance for the Tokyo Olympics, which we were really lucked out that the Olympics were only delayed and not canceled, because if they were canceled, we would have had to pay $500 million to the Olympic Committee. That wouldn't have been great. We also insured Nord Stream pipelines. So I'm sure you've probably seen that in the news, but it's some very interesting things that we cover. And then finally, we're really pushing for digital transformation of the insurance industry to push forward boundaries of insurability. So we work with our client companies, other insurance companies, on digital transformations and trying to be a trusted partner there, helping all of us move forward with better data and analytics. All right, so that was Munich Re, big global company, but now let's talk about HSB, which is a much smaller company. We have a little bit over 500 employees at HSB, most of them located in Hartford, but also some global presence with our inspection services. This is Munich Re, sorry, HSB US, although we actually own, HSB owns a company in Canada and a company in the UK and Ireland, as well as some other smaller firms doing other things. But this is our main data science team at HSB in the US. So you can see we have two data science teams as part of our data science organization. One is focused on traditional insurance analytics. That's led by my colleague, Yue Tang. And then my team, which is focused on engineering and technology. Also, actually, my team is a little bit focused on data science operations too, and ML ops, which is something we're just kind of launching in a formal and disciplined way at HSB in partnership with Munich Re. Finally, you see at the bottom, I note that we also employ interns and some university co-ops. So right now we have 2 PhD students from University of Connecticut and actually 2 faculty members there that we partner with on data science projects and also research. So we're actively publishing papers together. All right, and I figured I'd talk a little bit about our technology stack, because I know this is something that students are always interested in. At HSB, we're using Microsoft Azure. We use mainly Databricks, Azure Databricks for our compute resource. And then in terms of programming languages for doing data science and statistics, of course, we're using R and Python. And then in terms of other sort of supplementary libraries for, it's called large scale machine learning, deep learning, or Bayesian inference, we're using PyTorch, and we're also using Stan. And again, our team is comprised of 2 managers, 8 full-time data scientists, 4 future summer interns, which could be some of you in the audience, and then 2 PhD candidate co-ops. And you can see the educational background of our team is pretty diverse, a little bit heavily biased towards statistics, and that's not by accident. But we also have folks with computer science degrees, economics degrees, math, and that's me, and data science and engineering. Actually, we have one guy who's a control systems engineer. And then in terms of skill sets that are important to us, with Bayesian inference, statistical learning, deep learning, distributed computing, algorithms, software engineering, and control systems and optimization. And again, Munich Re has data science teams that are similar, but with a much larger global presence. So you can see, actually, this is a map of where our data and analytics teams exist. So all over the world, US, Spain and Portugal, Germany, Colombia, China and Shanghai actually, and many other places. Oh, and also the company puts a lot of effort into training folks in data science. So we have training programs from anyone who wants to begin on a path of learning about data and analytics, all to training that is provided for those of us who are already experts in the area, or at least experts with respect to Munich Re Group. I think many of us would argue it's very hard to be an expert in this field, just how quickly things are changing. Okay, yep.
Sorry, Nathan, could you wrap it up in 1 minute?
Of course I could. Yeah, this part's boring anyway. So what do? We do a lot of stuff, traditional insurance analytics and everything like that. For those of you who aren't familiar, we support underwriting and actuarial largely, but also do work in claims and other places. Again, I think the cool thing about HSB actually is our IoT division. This is something very new and cutting edge. So here you'd be able to work on all sorts of time series data, solving very unique problems that are not so traditional to the insurance industry. But anyway, let's get to the important thing. We are hiring, like I said, 4 summer interns. 3 of them we hope to be graduate students, and then 1 we hope could be an undergraduate student. Right here I have the qualifications for graduate students. And you can see we're looking for someone with a master's or a PhD in data science, statistics, computer science, math, physics, electrical engineering, or some related quantitative field. We prefer folks who can use Python or R. SQL is really important. And I would say aside from that, some very basic software engineering skills are important too. So being able to work with Git, Docker, understanding DevOps best practices, all those sorts of things is just growing in importance all the time. And then for ML frameworks, actually, like I said, we prefer PyTorch, but if you know something else, that's fine too. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nathan, for the interesting introduction of HSB and Munich Re. And next we'll have Jianchang Lin. And Jianchang is a Senior Director of Statistics in Takeda Pharmaceuticals with extensive drug development experience across various therapeutic areas in oncology, cell therapy, immunology, and rare disease. He has published over 50 papers in statistical and clinical peer-reviewed journals or book chapters and served as editors for 2 books published in Springer. And he's also an associate editor of Journal of Biopharmaceutical Statistics with research interest in innovative trial design, quantitative decision-making, RWD or RWE, and advanced data science. And Jianchang holds a PhD in statistics from Florida State University. And let's welcome Jianchang.
Thank you, Manchi, and thank you for the opportunity to share the summer intern program in Takeda. And as a previous panel share, a different kind of opportunity from different industries. So my focus is mainly focused on pharmaceutical company and the focus on about statistician internship program. So just quick overview of Takeda. Takeda is one of the top 10 pharmaceutical company in the world, and we have about 50,000 employees globally, and with about 40% located in US. Our global research and development hub is actually located in Cambridge, Massachusetts, in US. Interesting, most of the statisticians also located here. So in Massachusetts, I think we have about close to 200 statisticians located, locally. So we have focused on a couple key therapeutic areas like oncology, rare disease, neuroscience, GI, and with some target, investment in plasma-derived therapy and vaccines. So Takeda actually really invest a lot in terms data digital technology, in its research and development effort. And in particular, I would say the Data Science Institute, which is the umbrella organization I'm in, we have more than 500, quantitative scientists and technology experts here. So we have traditional statistician, programming. We also have clinical pharmacology, outcome epidemiologists, and IT experts. So the thinking is really bring all these, data and digital experts together, be able to power our development with next generation clinical trial design and insight, and bring medicine faster to patients. So, so for any of you who are interested for a permanent job opportunity, feel free to click here. So, but today I will spend a little bit more about internship program. So before I move to this internship program, I just want to share our data science, vision and mission in 2025. It's really to harness the insight of data and digital to speed the development of medicine to patient. So this is really a golden area for us as data scientists here to have such kind of opportunity to have an even broader impact to the drug development. And the organization we are in is called statistical quantitative science. Quantitative science is one of function within data science. So this is kind of, you're probably very familiar. This is kind of a very similar to the traditional biostatistical rule in the pharmaceutical company. But of course, we are embracing more and more, data and the digital in our daily work as well, because we are under the big umbrella of data science. So in general, our focus is really a couple key focuses. We use innovative trial design and the development strategy to speed up drug development, and also using advanced statistical and the data science method modeling, and best-in-class data and programming engine, driven by automation. So those are key functional capability we are focused on here. In particular, I want to share some examples. Right? We all know the clinical trial cost is really high. To bring a medicine to patient usually involved, millions in investment. So that's one of very nice comment from previous FDA commissioner. One promising way to make drug development more efficient. It's really to think about, how to leverage, your innovative approach to the design of clinical trial. So this actually provide a lot of opportunity for us as statistician, can play role here. So I just want to emphasize some of, one key area we'll focus on is, innovative trial design. You probably heard a lot of, in the past 2 years about MAS protocol, which allowed you to study multiple population model treatment in the same protocol. And we see in the past 2 years a global effort to combat, COVID-19, many trial and many joint effort among industry, government, and academia using this smart protocol to find out the best treatment for COVID-19. And also different other, innovative trial design like adaptive design. When you use appropriately, it can potentially shorten the development time and increase public success. And also now, we have more and more external data available. How to leverage those external data available. So this is a synthetic control. So all this, different, really provide a lot of opportunity for statisticians in the industry to create impact here. So you think about, if we can design more efficient trial, can reduce the total duration by 1 year, and put more patient to more efficacious drug. That could be a $1 million impact, to the company, to the patient. So so you probably heard from previous panel talk about the statistician role in pharmaceutical industry. So I just want to really share some very high level, let's lot of opportunity for us to provide leadership across different phases of development But in general, we are more like, in general, we work with a cross-functional team, to provide input and guidance on the design, collection, analysis, interpretation, and the decision related to clinical trials. So we often work with a lot with scientists, in the basic research, clinical clinician, regulatory agency to engage different regulatory bodies globally, operational data management, programming, clinical pharmacology. So it's really a multidisciplinary team in our typical life. And besides, your daily team, you also have to interact, internal governments to secure, to advocate your program, and also to interact with different regulatory bodies like FDA, EMA, PMDA is Japan, NMP, at least for China. So to engage all different agents in terms of development in different countries. So especially for nowadays, all the, especially for large pharma, all the drug, usually need to be launched, simultaneous across globally. So how to engage different agencies is also very important, in our daily work. Okay, so so this is kind of high level of our daily work. So now I want to spend more time about 2023, our SQS internship program. So this is most of opening will be located in Cambridge, Massachusetts, because we had a research and development headquarters here, and we have about 10 openings this year, and open to a PhD and master level and the application timeline is March 2023. So a typical program is 12 weeks, and the intern will work closely with an experienced industry statistician or data scientist on a variety of topics related to the design and analysis of clinical trial. And topic include but not limited, like basic measure, adapt design, real world, real evidence methodology, AI, machine learning, and the data science. And at the end of 12 weeks internship program, intern usually will give a presentation to the department to summarize their work. And it's not uncommon. Most work will be published in a peer-reviewed publication. I think in the past 3 years, the internship program maybe published about 10 papers in the past, which is pretty impressive. Think about it's only 3 months duration. So we already post this advertisement in the ASA website too. So so if you're interested, please send an email. We have one dedicated email box for the internship program, but if you but also can contact me directly if you are interested for our program. So just a little bit more detail what kind we can provide in during your 12 weeks in the program. So you will, at the first few weeks, you have a meet and greet with, network with a lot of full-time statisticians, and you can have opportunity to meet a lot of people in terms, career paths in pharma or in Takeda. And of course, seems you will work on an intern project, so you have regular one-on-one with you and your mentor directly. Sometimes during the pandemic, maybe 2 or 3, but with next year, maybe you have more intern coming on site, so you can have more opportunity to have a daily interaction with your manager. And intern will also have opportunity to join the seminar series to share your project, your cross-functional collaboration story, and your in general your contribution to the industry. And we also have social hour for intern. Especially in the past 2 years, it's totally virtual. So each Friday, I have some virtual happy hour among interns to share their research and networking. And we hope, we got a lot of good feedback on this. So hopefully we'll continue when we'll move to normal next year. And there are also other, different presentation for you to network with your peers, and the mentors, and almost senior people in the department. So let's what I want to share, on our internship program in Takeda. So If you have any other questions, feel free to share during the Q&A in the chat box. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jianchang, for sharing the internship opportunity at Takeda. And last, we have Melinda Tilba. And Melinda is a researcher and statistical software developer with over 20 years of industry experience. Her career ranges from statistics education to developing algorithms for commercial software to Hollywood scripts consulting. She co-founded Research Triangle Analyst, a 501c3 not-for-profit focused on education and training for people working in the analytics field in the Raleigh-Durham area. She currently works as a practice lead in Fidelity Investments workplace investing. And let's welcome Melinda.
Thank you very much. I'm really excited to be here today. Let's talk a little bit about Fidelity. And as we said, I'm a practice lead at Fidelity Investments. My group is hiring 3 interns this summer, but there are a lot of different internship opportunities at Fidelity. And there's a lot of great opportunities for people in statistics and mathematics. As you can see, that's what my PhD is in, but like a lot of folks here, I actually started out in economics. That's enough about me. What about you? Why would you want to be an intern at Fidelity? And one of the things I will say about Fidelity is that we are a financial services firm and we have a lot of technology. So we have very large tech organizations in diverse parts of the business. And if there is anything even tangentially financial industry related that you are interested in, chances are Fidelity has a group that is working on that either as part of our business, part of our core business, or in an R&D capacity. The other thing I will say is that I love our internship program because they are paid internships. The work is meaningful and hands-on. So all year we are finding projects that we would love to have done, but we don't have the staff for, and kind of breaking them down into work that would be a great summer intern opportunity. And so these are projects that would make a real business impact, things that we would do. It's just we're short-staffed. And so we'd like to have someone come work with us for a summer and work on these projects with us. We really have a strong internship program in general at Fidelity. So like a lot of other folks on this call have said, the connections you make are really important with your fellow interns as well as with other people in the business. And you will have a mentor and a coach to help you do well at Fidelity. We will provide you with a growth opportunity. So we'll work with you to find a project that will really help you grow. And Fidelity itself, we often say we're a relationship company. We really pride ourselves on being able to build strong relationships, both among people who work here and outside the industry. If there is a data science or artificial intelligence technology that you are excited about, there is a group at Fidelity who's working on it. So we have these standard kind of predictive models. So I heard XGBoost mentioned, lots of different ways to just predict, how much or who. We also have some deep neural networks and natural language processing, including our Fidelity chatbot. We're working a lot right now. I heard someone say digital transformation. We are working on our own digital transformation. And so when it comes to taking those massive troves of unstructured documents and turning them into data that you can use to improve the customer experience, that's one of our big goals for the next 5 years. And there is a ton of opportunity to do that here at Fidelity. And if you are interested in more traditional statistics, so advanced experimental designs, we are constantly testing both our models to make sure that the models do what we say they're going to do, but we're also testing ourselves to make sure that the world works the way that we say it works. I talk about institutional folklore. Fidelity has it as much as anybody. We're a 70-year-old financial company. Things that we've been telling each other for so long, we just think they're facts, but we haven't tested them, or we haven't tested them in a long time. And there is some pretty deep experimental design required to really dig into your data and find out whether or not that's actually the case. one of my passions is fair AI and explainable AI. The financial industry in particular is putting a lot of effort into making sure that the models that we use for customer experience, for making certain kinds of institutional decisions are fair, and also that we understand why they do what they do. And so that's, again, if you come to work here and that's something you're really passionate and excited about, I hope you will send me a resume, because that's something I'm really passionate and excited about. And I have several projects that I would love to have someone come work on this summer. Multivariate time series forecasting, obviously we're a financial company, right? Change over time is important in predicting what's going to happen with our business so that we're appropriately prepared, and also to help us make money. At the end of the day, we're still a business like everyone else. And tons more. Again, whatever you're passionate about, chances are there is at least one project. If it's not in our group, it'll be in another group at Fidelity that could use your skills. Now, what is the internship program like? You will work as part of a team. And you will hopefully work as part of a team that challenges and excites you. People who really know Fidelity's business, people who really know statistics, people who can really help you grow, but also who are fun to work with and engaging. Every intern in my group gives a presentation. I hope you like to present. If you don't like to present, we will work with you on getting better at presenting. I know that's not always your favorite thing if you love to sit at a computer by yourself all day. Some of our work actually becomes published research. And so if you're interested in being published, I'm working with my intern from last summer. Actually, is a co-author on a paper that I'm currently shopping around. And each of us that's hiring in the Workplace Investing Center of Excellence is a researcher working on advanced work. What are we looking for? Again, I don't think there are any surprises here, given what everyone else has been looking for. My preference is either you have deep math expertise and you have done some applied work, or you're very, very applied and you have a lot of applied expertise and you know some math. I find that combination of skills is really, really important. And so I've had folks come in who were just math guys, really smart at math, but not as experienced in application, and they've had some tough challenges. And the other way around, I've known people who are just masters of data and just really, really good at kind of pulling data together and telling a good story about it. But when it came to the kind of work that we need done, which is a little bit deeper, a little bit more about causes and effects, it's just difficult. So the way to really shine here, and I think in data science in general, is to be either extremely applied and have a good math background, or extremely mathematically savvy and to have some applied experience. We are getting the application process spun up, so please go to students.fidelitycareers.com. Again, my group is hiring 3 data scientists, I'm sorry, not hiring 3 data scientists, hiring 3 student interns for data science. But there are other groups at Fidelity who are looking for data scientists as well and looking for interns in their data science group. And this would be the place to go for all of those internships. And please follow us at Fidelity Jobs if you can. Thank you so much for your time. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Melinda, for the great introduction of Fidelity's career and some of the research topics. And like currently, I think most of the Q&A questions have already been answered. So I'm going to ask some general questions to all of the panelists. So the first questions that I have for all of you is that, do you have any tips for students who have never had internship experience to succeed in your hiring process? Are they in a less advantaged position than students who have had internships?
So I'll start. For interns, I don't really look for past work experience. I'm interested in your coursework and I'm interested in what you're going to do.
Yeah, thank you, Melinda. And does other panelists have correct answers to this?
Yes, I think that you need to stand out because there's a limited number of positions, and if everyone has taken the same courses, What are you going to compare? Grades? Is that the right criteria? Probably not. So how do you stand out from everyone else is the main thing. Is it the extracurricular? Maybe have you tackled any other additional projects? Are you working with a faculty member to do something interesting that you can tell a story about? These are people who stand out. And maybe it's past work or other things, but there's lots of opportunities to stand out.
Yeah, I totally agree with the comment on standing out. And one way that you can stand out is to reach out directly to hiring managers. I've noticed that the students that reach out to me directly tend to be the most motivated, right? And that translates well into their work product. And also, if you don't have a lot, work experience to draw from, if you have a nice GitHub and projects you can show off, from your coursework or your own personal passion projects, that's great too.
Yeah, I want to second the GitHub comment there. Thank you, Nathan. As well as not necessarily internships, but what other kind of interesting things have you done in this general space, where you've shown some passion or some personal interest to delve into an application that would be somewhat relevant to us. And we always try to tailor the internship to the skills. We have so many different kinds of problems people can work on. We tailor it to the skill sets of the individual.
Yeah, thank you all for the great answers. And then I have a follow-up questions. So what kind of recommendations do you have to help students stand out on resume or cover letter?
I'm going to say something controversial, which is don't write a cover letter. I don't have time to read them. I see so many that are several pages long. If you do write a cover letter, keep it brief, succinct, and to the point. Show me that you have the qualifications for the job. I think that applies to the resume too. Just keep it just right, not too busy. Again, the most important thing is that you can do the job that we're asking you to do. So
I think the standout argument applies here too. So very often when you're doing early career recruiting or when you're doing recruiting for, say, an internship, to Peter's point, the resumes all kind of look the same. Most people have straight A's in whatever their quantitative discipline is. And so in some ways you have 20 resumes and they're almost indistinguishable. So what's the little, maybe it's a narrative thing where you're able to link the internship to your personal story or your personal career aspirations. Maybe it's an employee reference. That's something that's a thing to think about. Very often on the career sites for our respective companies, internal employees can create a little reference, and maybe that's just enough to push that person over the edge into consideration.
And one thing I want to add is also be mindful on the position you are applying for, right? Because although we from today's panel, you can see we have a variety of different kind of internship opportunity at a different level. So if we are applying some pharma, often a pharma internship are more focused on research because as I share, sometimes your research, especially your PhD with 2 or 3 years, you can emphasize your dissertation topic, and often if your topic is quite relevant to the intern project, most likely because we only have 12 weeks, sometimes we all mentors want to have some person have already very familiar on topics so can get our work on directly. But we also have a different level, like us, we have about 10 openings, but we also have 2 openings for the programming related. So this is open for our master level. And so in that case, you should emphasize your programming skill, your project, and have you done any if no other real project, can emphasize your course project and your programming skill. So just be mindful on the position you're applying, and then you can prepare accordingly for that position.
I guess I would agree with Nathan again, in that I don't look at the cover letter unless the CV is impressive enough that there's enough interest there. And what does impress me about a cover letter, if the CV, if the CV looks good, is if there's something specific where this individual can see themselves, that they talk about, for example, Olay Skin Advisor or something external, or our Oral-B Genius product, our smart product, and the algorithms that might be used. if they say something that shows that they've done a little bit of research and something intrigues them that's specific about us, that actually will go a long ways. But I personally wouldn't really get to the cover letter if I didn't see, things quite good enough on CV. So.
Yeah, I see. Great. Thank you all for the comments on these questions. Yeah, and I also saw one from the Q&A, which I think is relevant to what Layson just said. So from Sumit Kumarkar, the student was asking what is the best way for each of the panelists to get in touch, keep in touch with you after this webinar.
Yeah, I would go through the students.fidelitycareers.com. Again, we have three openings, but there are a lot of openings at Fidelity, and so our group might not be right for you, but another group might be. And our recruiting actually does a really good job of reading your resume thoughtfully and connecting you with the right hiring manager. My summer intern didn't apply even for a data science internship, and she found his resume in another pile and gave it to me.
I agree 100%.
So for me, because I'm part of a smaller organization, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or email me. I provided my email address in the slides, but apply first.
Yeah, LinkedIn for Grayson, and then similar comment from Melinda. Our internship opportunities as well as our rotational employee programs are all centrally administered through our human resources at bankofamerica.com/careers.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. So.
So Ji, could you say that again? There is some. Oh, I think maybe Rob or you should unmute yourself because both of you.
Yeah, I'm just saying I'm on LinkedIn, so feel free to friend me.
Sure. Yeah, and Zhenchang, do you have anything to add on?
Yeah, so I think LinkedIn probably the best way to reach out us. We can also share our email as well.
Sure. Thank you all for the sharing. And then I have another follow-up questions. Do you have preferences for which year of graduate students you hire?
So I'll start. So my group does not host interns. My program or my team does support the 2-year rotational associate program. And that's the program where folks are actual employees of the company and they rotate on a schedule throughout different departments in the company. For that program, my department or my team only accepts second year or senior, if you will, rotational associates. And again, the third opportunity for select universities, unfortunately, we also sponsor graduate research. But for us, no interns and only the second year associates.
We don't pick a year like everyone else here. We need solid programming skills. So if you don't have solid programming skills on your resume, you might be better served developing those skills before you apply to us. But any year is fine. So if you did that as an undergraduate, great, apply in your first year.
At Pfizer, it's junior and senior, sorry. At Pfizer, it's graduate students for the statistics primarily, both master's and PhD at any stage. And for data science in general, for other internships, it's usually junior year and above.
So at P&G for graduate students, really the year doesn't matter. Similar to what Melinda said, coding skills are important. So we look much more at experiences the individuals had, what projects they've worked on, look at their, their code in GitHub, and that's kind of how we're making more, decisions. there. So the year really does not matter.
So from Takeda, we have 10 opening internship next year. Among them, I think maybe 7 or 8 kind of research based. So usually prefer it to have PhD with 2 or 3 years experience, because typical, during the 12 weeks, you may work on some very interesting problem we encounter, and you will run a lot of simulation. You need to wrap up reports, and not uncommon, you will have a peer review publication. We also have 2 dedicated opening for the programming, and the automation. So that it's open to I think all level, and as long as programming skill is good, so you will be involved in a lot of SAS and SAS micro development and Shining development. So yeah, it's quite diverse. So just be, when you prepare application, just be prepared to notice which opening you apply for.
And Nathan, do you want to add on?
No, nothing extra really to say there. Yeah, we don't have a preference for year. Again, it's can you go it or not is going to be the threshold really. And then beyond that, I would mention, one thing that in insurance, at least, it's often the art of making decisions under extreme uncertainty with limited data. So I look for pretty advanced math stat skills as well. So if you haven't finished that sequence yet, then you might struggle in insurance.
Yeah, sure. Thank you all for sharing that on these questions. And then the other questions that in general that I will have for all of us is that, are there any skills or qualities which are crucial on the job in your team, but many graduate students tend to ignore or fail to acquire?
One of the things that yeah, go ahead, Nathan.
Oh, no, go ahead.
One of the things that I emphasize when I recruit is, and I talked a little bit about this earlier, is one of the things that I like to think, at least, that makes my team very valuable in consumer and small business at Bank of America is that our analysts can really manage an entire project. Folks on my team can sit down with a business executive, a banking executive, and they can talk about a particular product or a particular client and understand the financial crime risk, and go from that conversation to a measurement problem or some sort of experiment that needs to be conducted. And they can then go out to a ginormous relational database environment and construct the analytical data set that they need to work on. And that involves, very often, because big companies like ours are often the product of mergers and acquisitions, sometimes data doesn't necessarily live well put together. Sometimes it needs to be engineered so that data from over here, it talks to data over here. They can do that. And then they can be judicious about the quantitative analysis that needs to be applied. And that sounds like kind of a simple thing to say, but particularly for those of us in finance, quantitative tools and techniques are very heavily scrutinized, not just for the fairness reasons that Melinda talked about earlier, but there's some scrutiny on this idea of model risk, our models being used appropriately, the correct models being chosen, and all of these things. And so we have to be very judicious about the selection of the quantitative tool or technique. And then on the back end, being able to present an audience appropriate set of findings. Maybe it's an extremely quantitative presentation, or maybe it's a 30-second synopsis for an executive that only has 7 seconds to give you.
In the data science realm, I think that everyone is still always developing, and the students don't have enough skills yet, nor do the people who are professionals. So I'm still working on my skills, but the people who could do machine learning can't do software engineering. The software engineers can't do data engineering. and they don't know the subject area. So it's a combination of these different skills is what's required for data science, in addition to the well-documented soft skills of communication ability and storytelling and so on. So more of all the above.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say one of the immediate things that most statisticians don't have great training in is on the software engineering side. So, DevOps, MLOps is a big area now. I don't think every statistician needs to become a software engineer. I think that's not possible for most people, given that we have finite time. But you should know enough at least to interface better with your colleagues in engineering, right? So you should know about version control, and you should know about containers and all these other topics, right, that are important. And you should be able to write production ready code, at least something approximating it. So.
To emphasize something that Grayson said, I find that a lot of students aren't getting a lot of training in data and how to build data tables that measure what you think they measure and can be used for the analysis that you've been given. And so to connect also with what some folks said about a project that stands out, the best intro to data science project that I ever saw was someone had taken all of his own financial data. So all his credit card data, all his bank transactions, and you can download all of that in CSVs. And he built a model that helped him build a budget. And so that showed all the skills that I wanted in a data scientist, right? It showed that you were able to take all these different data sources and bring them together. It showed that you were able to build a model. It's data he understood, so he knew when he was getting reasonable answers, but it also took that model and turned it into an application that he was able to deploy for himself. And so get some experience with real data, dirty data, messy data, data that doesn't necessarily look exactly the way you want it when you get it.
I would say the softer skill I would add is collaboration, because that's critical, and it's maybe not necessarily stressed as much in college and education. One other kind of interesting thing, just based on some of the other comments I'll add, is our very first data science intern we had a number of years ago now from University of Florida. I thought this was a pretty interesting application, when we were just initially just talking. He actually had done some scraping of what was available at his university. And what he was doing is trying to find out any kinds of meetings or any other things that would have likely have had food. And so that he would just figure out, then automatically send them a notification of when there might be food available, which building and all this. I just thought, for me, that was impressive. So he took skills, which obviously that's a lot easier to do now, but 6-7 years ago, that wasn't quite as easy.
I'm saying that should be an app.
Yeah, and so there he took skills that he had and he was just using it just to improve his quality of life. So that kind of impressed me, and those kinds of things I think are really kind of insightful for how people think.
Yeah, and Jianchang, do you want to comment on this?
No, it's been covered by everyone else. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. And then I also saw one questions from the Q&A. I believe most of you already answered this, but do you allow students to do summer internship on CPT, and do you sponsor H-1B visa for full-time employees? Yeah, Melinda, could you go for this?
Yes.
Because
Yes, but yes to both. Fidelity can handle both. We have a lot of H-1Bs, so we're very experienced at that.
For Grayson, Bank of America, if you remember from my talk, I said that Bank of America is kind of built of individual lines of business. The individual lines of business that may be sponsoring the interns or the rotational associates tend to have their own requirements for the students. So I would just encourage you, as you're looking at the career site, to read the details of the particular position in the particular line of business for which you're applying.
Yeah, HSP and Munich Re both sponsor visas. One other thing that we've done for candidates too is that let's say a candidate doesn't make it through the visa lottery. Sometimes we've been able to move them internationally for some time period, either to Europe or China or other places, and then bring them back later. So that's one advantage of having that global presence, is we can keep people around even in unfortunate situations like that.
It's a similar situation for P&G. There's a mix. Typically, however, our sponsorship is only for PhDs. Very rarely would there be any sponsorship for masters or bachelors within P&G. But most of the data science and statistics roles do sponsor PhDs.
And Jingchang, could you also share this about Takeda?
Usually, it's open to all the students. I think in the past we, if I remember right, forgive my memory. I think most of our intern, it's international, so it need CPT application. But we always work with them to get I think that's not the issue.
Yeah, and I think Peter also answered this at Pfizer. You do have CPT and also have the visa sponsorship. Yeah, and then I just have some more general questions for you. And can you share any tips of completing a successful internship in your team?
Could you repeat that, please?
Can you share any tips of completing a successful internship in your team?
I would say successful internship is both way. Also need the mentor, need to think about your project plan in a thoughtful way. It's because it's not only on the intern side, but also mentor need to have very good framework of thinking what you're gonna do within 12 weeks, because often it's a very short time period, and I think one of lesson learned, sometimes people just want to explore too many things, and then at the end you may not get some very meaningful result at the end of 12 weeks. But I think it is both. But as an intern, I maybe more focused on our industry side, which often pharma industry often may very similar to you typically do at your research, but although the problem may be more practical oriented. So a strong programming skill, a strong understanding of the problem, and work very closely with your mentor, and be proactive to come out potential solution. Because as mentor, usually who are in industry for a long time, they may be good on the direction, high level statistical thinking, but may not be strong as you in terms of a lot of technical detail. So intern really can bring a lot of such kind of advantage to help shape certain direction and also come out a better proposal. So I would say be more proactive and more engaged with conversation. Sometimes if we just only do what was told by mentor, which may not be the best, because sometimes mentor itself may not so as expert as you on certain technical details. So that's my thinking on more specific to some of internship opportunity, in our company, especially you want to do some a lot of evaluate, develop some new method related to clinical trial. Yeah, so it kind of is very similar to your PhD dissertation, but in more intense, more focused way within 12 weeks, try to solve that problem.
at the risk of oversharing personal information, I turn 40 years old next year, and I'm still not sure I know what I want to be when I grow up. And so I think it's pretty healthy for early career folks to approach internships with kind of an experimental approach. You may or may not like the business. I encourage you to try to learn the business. If you intern, again, my team does not host interns, but Bank of America obviously does. And so if you intern at Bank of America, spend that period being a banker and thinking to yourself, does banking make sense for me? And if it doesn't, cool, then move on. That's the nice thing about being an early career. So approach it experimentally, number one, and really wherever you are, if it's Takeda, Bank of America, Fidelity, P&G, learn the business. Data science is ultimately situated inside of and supporting a business. Learn the business and ask yourself, does that make sense for me?
So I'd like to build on that. So the word I would use is explore. Explore the company, which is similar to what I think you just heard, and not only the immediate area. Really try to get to know people in other parts of the company, because like I mentioned with P&G, we've got clinical, statistics, we've got data science, and the marketing side, we've got such a broad so you can understand, is this company in this kind of work, a fit for you? It may or may not be. The other kind of definition would be external. So for your actual project itself, when I say explore, you need to be exploring what is the current state of the art. So whatever the problem you're facing, is there some code in GitHub somewhere where somebody's already solved that? And if so, you need to know about it and then potentially try to leverage that. Or, depending if it's more data science or more stats, but know what the state of the art is. Explore what's externally available for this problem. Don't have to start from scratch every time. Really start from what. So that's what comes to mind for me.
Yeah, I second the exploring point. I think, in insurance and financial services, a lot is driven by relationship, right? So meet people, build relationships, get to know people, not just within your department, but outside of it, and really make an effort there. And I think that'll serve you well. I can very briefly say what I know doesn't work. I have one funny experience where an intern, I had a meeting with him set up to review a project, and 5 minutes into the meeting, he didn't show up. And I sent him a text message and said, "Where are you?" He said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm working on a very interesting problem and will not be able to attend your meeting." So don't do that. Yeah.
I think it's a two-way street. We compete to have interns, and the interns also have some knowledge that they've recently been introduced to. And so it's what they can bring to the table, but there's also some flexibility of the projects because we have lots of things we want to achieve. And if we can make you happy by shifting your project slightly or maybe taking a second project, that's often something that we can do just to have a better experience for both parties.
You're on mute.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. Thank you all for the great answers on these questions. And then I would like to comment on this. I think we will have we'll upload all of the slides and also the video recordings on the NISS website. Please keep on that. And yeah, and I think the time is pretty close to the end. And I want to express my thanks to all of the panelists for sharing your great introduction to all of your companies and your potential internship opportunities, and also for all the attendees. Thank you for coming today. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for joining.